Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of Gift of Gab. Y'all, we are actually recording this episode on the first day of September, and I think this is just a phenomenal way to start out the month. So I'm super excited to be here. We have a special guest here. We have Mr. Marlon. He is our therapist for today, y'all. He gonna drop some therapist gems on us for the people out there, because y'all know a Gift of Gab, we champion everybody going to therapy. I don't care how good your life was, how good you think it was, go to therapy. Everybody needs a therapist, right? It just doesn't look the same for everybody. But welcome in, Marlon. We are happy to have you here. Thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. How are you feeling today?
Oh, I'm making it,
That's right.
It is the first of a new month, so new beginning. So that's always a blessing to have that opportunity.
Absolutely. Kick this month off right.
Yeah.
So, y'all, today's topic is the importance of community, right? Um, I wanted to do this episode with Marlon because Marlon is from the grand land of New Orleans, right? And if it's one thing I know about New Orleans, community is really big there, right? It's when I've visited New Orleans, I've never felt like I didn't belong or like I was a tourist, right? There was just such a sense of community there. So we're gonna just dive right on in, and just let's start out with what is community?
That's a good question. I think community, when you look at community, is really, it could be subjective, it can be objective. However, for most people, it is an environment, a group, a setting where, you feel some level of connectedness. Big piece of it is connectedness and belonging.
Mhm.
Most people have an array of communities, diverse communities. We all come with something we like to call intersections, right? To be
Okay.
an African American male from New Orleans, went to X, Y, and Z school, and you have all of these different communities based on your family, your friends, your institutions you're a part of. But basically, to put it into a summary, it really is a arena of connectedness, an arena of belonging, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I caught that you said in there is that you can be a part of multiple communities.
Yeah.
That's big. And I think a lot of times, at least me, right, when I've thought about community, I've just thought about one community, but not
Mm.
so many of the sectors, like you said, school and where you're from and your gender. That can be community as well. So I think that was a great first call out to know that community is not just one
Yep.
community, right? It can be
Yep.
multiple communities that make up your community. Um, so I guess my next question is, why is community important
Mm.
for us? Why is that like a thing that, everybody's like community, community? Why is it important?
Well, I'll stick with America. Stick with the home base.
We know this
Um,
place.
whether you believe it or not, we are going through something.
Mhm,
One big piece of community that is so important. We have all been through COVID.
mhm,
I think when COVID happened and with the pandemic and the restrictions and the limitations, we at some points we lost a sense of community
mm,
because we could not engage, we couldn't socialize, we couldn't connect, we couldn't go out. And right now, what we're seeing, there's a lot of studies right now that's happening focusing on loneliness.
mhm,
And what we're starting to discover is more and more Americans feel lonely.
mhm,
And when I say lonely, it's not in a sense of someone that's home, in the room, closed doors, not engaging.
mhm.
That's more of someone that's just socially unengaged or disengaged.
Right.
There's people that work, have marriages and families,
Mhm.
successful in a sense, but feel very lonely.
Yeah.
We see that loneliness as well is contributing to, of course, depression. It contributes, of course, to suicidal ideations and suicide attempts and them actually happening. But we're also seeing it on the physical health side where you have people who have heart attacks and strokes. They have a higher chance of
Wow.
having that. And also their outcomes tend to be poorer because they don't have that community or that social support to help them keep going, keep moving. When I think of community, I feel like you need a community to thrive. And
Mm,
there's an intent behind community. So you go to your bare basics and you look at animals. You have herds, right? You
yeah,
have when lions they get together and they hunt together. There's a purpose in that. They have to get together to hunt.
yeah,
Birds, they migrate, they get together in that V to go together to where they need to move when the seasons are changing.
yeah,
And humans, we're no different. We
yeah,
are born into families.
yeah,
I like to call my community my tribe,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Um, and we need that. We need that connectiveness. We need that support. We need that just safety. There's a
yeah,
safety in community. We need all of that in order to thrive and kind of make that impact and have that intent as we move through life. I feel life requires community.
yeah.
And right now, what we're seeing is a lot of individualism, which is okay.
Right.
It's not such a bad thing, but you have to know how to be an individual amongst the collective.
Ooh,
And so as we're moving into this,
yeah,
we really have to kind of refocus on how do we show up?
yeah,
How do we present ourselves? How do we reconnect? How do we understand to live life amongst others? I think America right now, that's kind of where we are. Those are the questions that I think are still pending, that's still
mhm,
being answered, that are shifting. So, right now I think community is one of the most important factors that we need to really pay attention to.
yeah,
Um, and make it a core of our day to day and really have it a part of your drive and your intent and what those goals are. So to
yeah.
me, it's like a foundation.
I want to go back to something that you said that really stuck out to me. Um, you said that community helps you thrive.
Mm, mhm,
And I like that you didn't say survive, but break
mm.
that down for us a little bit. What does it look like with a community that helps you thrive? And I know that's individualized, right? But what are some of the kind of key things that, they just kind of are they're across the spectrum. Like these are the things that you can identify to know if your community is helping you thrive.
I think the first piece is positivity.
Hmm.
A part of thriving is to have those words of affirmation,
Hmm.
to have the clarity, to have the trust,
Mm.
to have the safety,
Mhm.
go back to having a safe community. I think safe communities are healthy communities.
Mhm.
So, having the ability to have a network around you or a tribe around you where you feel safe, you feel vulnerable, and not in a sense where, I need to process something. Maybe I just need to figure something out.
Mhm.
Maybe I just need to get another perspective. I may not be in an attempt to survive or to get through something, which communities are important then, but in this goal setting and in this, I'm thinking about this idea, but what do you think?
Yeah.
Having those listening ears, I think if you have a safe network, um that is probably one of the biggest indicators that you do have a positive community. And then also accessibility, and that
Mm.
goes both ways,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
Reciprocity is a lot, and in communities reciprocity is what builds it.
Yeah.
So if you have that reciprocity happening, your community, everyone should be on the upheaval and thriving and making it. So being accessible, but also reciprocating. I think that's some of the bigger and major factors in having a thriving community.
Yeah.
Um, Outside of the surviving piece, because I know we talk a lot about the surviving piece within communities, but I think those are some of the big ones.
No, that listen, let me tell you something. I love a good reciprocity process, okay? I love the give and take. And I think, in my adult years, what I have come to understand about reciprocity is that the way you give it does not always mean that's the way you're gonna receive it, right? So in the community, at least I found like in my communities, in my tribes, I might be the one that's a little more like engaged with, well, I read about this, right? And then
Mhm.
I have the friend that's like, well, I went through this, right? And then you have the friend, well, I thought about this. So everybody plays a part, but everybody, there's that balance and then there's that give and take. So that's huge. Um, so my next question is, or let's chat a little bit through for the people that, they don't think they have a community.
Mm.
How do you find that community? How do you navigate the waters to find your tribe?
Mm. I think one piece is, and I want to kind of go back to the loneliness piece.
Mhm,
Because you can have, like I said, you can have someone that's in a marriage and working, successful but feel lonely. I
mhm,
think one big piece is understanding why and how you feel that way so
mm,
that you can identify like what is it that you need. And it's not just social connectedness. Usually it's something, a part of that or bigger than that. I always tell my clients too, if I'm working with this in therapy, is start with what you know.
ooh.
So,
Wait, go back one more time. Say that one more time. That was a whole word right there.
yeah, start with what you know. You don't necessarily have to reinvent the wheel.
Mhm,
You probably have communities around you, and there may just be a difference. I think about someone maybe practicing Buddhist, but they live in a Catholic household. They teach in a Catholic institution or they go to a Catholic school and everything around is Catholicism, but they feel so lonely because they want to engage in Buddhism. But find that Buddhist community for you or take that trip, to Asia or wherever, you can go to embrace that. I think if you look, find your passion
mhm.
and let your passion drive you to your community.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Start with your backyard. If there's nothing in your backyard, look online. A lot of people get afraid when it comes to like groups and they think of group therapy, but like not all groups are group therapy.
Right.
Sometimes there's just networking groups, sometimes there's creative groups. A lot of collectives are starting to pop up.
Mhm,
If it's reading, there's a lot of reading clubs popping up. You know what I mean? Like take the time to figure out what your passions are and what's available to you to dive into that. Now, the hardest part usually is to just do it. So once you do
right.
it, once you got it, once you're in the door, I promise you, it tends to be 10 times easier because you've done the hard work.
Yeah.
Now it's just finding out who you are in this environment, how do you engage, and what do you bring to the table,
Mhm.
and being open to meeting new people, right? To understanding, what this community means.
Yeah.
We may feel a part of community, but we still have something to learn. One thing about humans, we are always the student,
Yeah.
right? So,
Always.
figuring out how do you show up in this environment, being that student, growing in it, just get through the door. That's the first
Mhm.
step. Get through the door.
Just start. Start where
Just
you are with
start.
what you have.
Yes.
That is it. And I read an article, I believe it was on CNN, y'all don't quote me, but I read an article, I think at the top of this year, and it was talking about zillennials, right?
Hmm.
And the whole dating online process and how a lot of them were saying that, they feel so ostracized. They feel
Mhm.
so alone, like they're on islands because the world has become all about social media, whether it's in the form of, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, or dating. And they're yearning for a time that, that we get back as a community in person. But there's also beauty in the social media setting, right?
Mhm.
Because you get to connect with people that you probably have to fly several hours to connect with them, right? had you not been able to do that online. So there is a sense of community there online with the different social clubs online. Like Facebook got a club for everything. I'm in a
Every.
cooking club and I don't cook, Marlon. So there's a community for everything, right? But there are people in there who are championing me on, like, girl, cook, try
Yeah.
it. So I think that's huge. With starting where you are with what you have. I know a lot of us want to be engaged in person and things like that. But if your only access to your community right now is through a social site, use that.
Mm-hmm.
Start right there and then let that build and expand and stretch into something bigger. Am I correct in that?
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. And I've seen it happen. I've seen people, and it was related to dating,
Mm-hmm.
get in Facebook groups and because their community here just wasn't what they wanted it to be.
Right.
So they got on a Facebook group, and now that Facebook group, they have like a club, and they'll go and travel together. So they plan trips. So not only do you have that connectiveness and it allows you, dating potential, but also there's some real life that happens outside of it that they were able to create for themselves. And get together and travel to where they could connect, outside of the computer screen or the phone. So also you have power to build on your foundation. So you start there, y'all can build on it. You can make it what you need and what you want it to be.
That's absolutely right. Now, I want to dive a little bit deeper to a different side of community. So let's say, a community no longer serves you.
Mm.
How do you navigate that? Like, let's start with, how do you recognize that a community no longer serves you? And how do you navigate maybe exiting that community?
Yeah, because it happens,
Mhm.
and especially as we grow. Um, I would say in a foundational piece is again a season, a reason.
Mm,
And sometimes those two things are a part of you being in a community and leaving a community. So, when we say a season, it could be you were in for a certain amount of time, but in that certain amount of time, whether you stay or whether you leave, you still always have a reason. So to me, whenever you go through something, it's important for you to figure out what's some meaning behind this, right? What has this taught me? And sometimes you feel that uncomfortableness, you feel that abrasiveness, and you start to get these indicators that this community is no longer healthy for me. And then when that piece happens, you got to start looking at why is that the case? How is that the case? And always reflect though, is it you or is it them?
Woo!
Right? Because
I want to
sometimes
know some accountability, Marlon. Come on, that's right.
yeah, because sometimes you have to figure that piece out. And both, whether it's you or them or you and them, that could be the appropriate time to grow apart. Right? Bless you. We're growing apart. It's no hatred. It doesn't have to be a negative situation. Me personally, therapist hat off. I am very blunt, transparent. I'll let you know, like, hey, listen, I don't think this friendship is healthy
Right.
for us. I think we're at a place where I wish the best for you. I know what I have that's happening in my life, and I think we'll be better to separate. But I think with other people, kind of putting that therapist hat back on is one is also setting boundaries, right?
Mm-hmm.
Making sure that one, you're not allowing these people to take advantage of you, or you're not doing the same to them. That safety piece that I mentioned when we first talking about community exists. And then also that you have time to reflect and have the insight. And that tends to guide you in, are you making the best decisions
Yeah.
to remove yourself from this community? But always leave with a purpose and always try to leave with positivity, right? On the up end, because you don't need to leave with the negativity.
Right.
Sometimes you carry that, and if you're carrying that, you're not truly free from that group. You're still in it. You're just absent. You didn't go to class that day, but you're still in
Marlon,
the group.
this episode is just all you because what? Oh my, like just just the plethora of gems in that statement, accountability, and just making sure that like you get what you came for, right? You came for a purpose, and just because you've gotten it, it doesn't mean you still have to hold on to that thing that is supposed to be there for a season,
Yeah,
for a reason. And I think a lot of times we have to remember that seasons aren't just like, like regular seasons, winter, spring, summer, and
right.
fall. Sometimes seasons can be years.
Yeah,
And you get what you came for, and you find a way to say, okay, how, when, what, where, all these questions, right? And then you make your exit and you don't leave carrying baggage that you
yep.
came to put down. That is huge. Do not leave with that baggage. Erica Badu, bag lady. Don't
Mm.
leave with it. Leave it there. Oh man, that was just a whole word. I feel like we could just end right there. I feel like that sums it all up. No, that was fantastic. But I do have another question.
Hmm?
How do you know? How does a person know if they are a good member of a community? If you are a good neighbor, how do you know that?
Hmm. I I'm gonna use a personal experience. Because it was something I never even considered. Until I went through the loss of my mom. Um, it was that when everybody just started showing up. It was, it was periods where I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I don't, I don't know where to start. I don't know where to go.
Yeah.
And I had people like texting, calling, hey, you need this, you need that. Coming to the door, dropping off food. Had a whole team flying in from Florida. Had a whole group of people, right, that came in. And I was at the repast, and one of the elders in my family, she said, Marlon, pay attention. You have to be a good person to have what you have,
Yeah.
because not everybody has this. And she's like, your mom had to be a good person because look at all of the family that's in the room that we haven't seen since 1995.
Wow.
So I think it is when things could be quiet, not too much chaos happening, but people show up.
Yeah.
I think to be a good participant is someone feels safe with you,
Mm,
someone feels heard with you, someone feels valued
mm.
by you. And I always tell people when I teach my classes too, I in my every single class with this, never underestimate the power of your presence.
Ooh.
And I
Yeah.
think if you live in that, you will be a good community member.
Ooh. I mean, should we rename the show like the Gift of Marlin for this episode? I mean, because come on. Like,
You know?
it is people feeling safe with you, it is people being able to feel vulnerable with you. It's your presence bringing just greatness and grace. Oh my God, right? That is just,
Yeah. Yeah.
man, Marlon, I
And
gotta go back and check and make sure I'm being a good member of the community because my Atlanta.
well, that's the thing. Know when you falter, because you will,
Right.
right? You're not gonna have it 24/7, but that's
That's right.
also the benefit of having a community.
That's
Because
right.
guess what? You might have people in that community that's gonna say, "Hey, you slipping.
Oh, come on,
Hey,
accountability.
they different. What's going on?" Right? And so, a part of also doing that is to have that accountability, be that person, and be like, "Okay, I'm slipping in my community. Let me do a little bit better. Let
Right.
me reach out a little bit more. Let me go volunteer. Let me go do this and make some type of impact. Because I haven't been able to give my full self, and that's the beauty of community. When you can't give your full self, you have somebody to support you. You got some shoulders to lean on,
That's right.
and that's
So
when things get moving.
that's right. So I guess I'll end with this. It's kind of a two-part question. You talked about individualism a little bit early
Mhm.
on in the segment. So when life is lifing and you feel like, okay, I need a break, right? I'm known for being this person in my community, but right now I don't have the capacity, I don't have the strength, or I just can't be that person. A, how do you communicate that to your community? And how do you navigate those waters of like, I still need my community, but right now I need me? How do you
Mhm.
navigate that individualism and when you just kind of just need to take a step back and not be the full on community member that you have probably been always known to be? And is that healthy?
Yeah, no, you gotta have your capacity checks. You gotta check that battery.
Mhm.
I think that first step, communicating it, it usually sets the tone. Now, how you do it is, that's the important piece. So it is, hey, listen, I'm at my capacity, or I have a lot happening. I just need to take a step back. Saying it in a respectful way, but very transparent with the boundaries that you need. You know what I mean? So if it's like, hey, weekdays are really tough for me. So like, I'll reach out to y'all. We could like do stuff, but it will have to be a weekend if you're coming off of a friend group that always want to meet up every Taco Tuesday, wine Wednesday, what
Not
have you.
too much on me and my friends, but not too much.
But these are things that we kind of, things we do, or go to brunch every Sunday. These are kind of things that we do. And at some points, although you may still want to socialize and you need to eat, but there could be some things that, like I need to take a step back. And I think having a community that can respect that and understand that, one, is going to show you you're in the right place. But two, you also have to be able to be vulnerable and safe enough to say, I need to take that step back. Now, when it is time to reach out, or you want your community, that is communication as well. Like sometimes I may say, hey, I need my friends. I may shoot it in a text group, right? And then boom, we're planning out something, right? So I think it's navigating it is more about the transparency, the boundaries, communicating all of this, of course,
Mhm.
and just being clear on your intentions with the appropriate people, right? Because you got to think some people in your community could be the contributors to your capacity issues, right? But that doesn't mean you get rid of your entire community.
Right.
You set boundaries around that, the battery sucker.
That's right.
Right. So, you got to be very mindful of what is it that you need? What can you do? What is your capacity? And where you need to set those boundaries. Don't be afraid to communicate that, because that's growth. That's how communities navigate certain things, certain issues.
Yeah. So in all of this session, I've heard a lot of key points from you that I hope the audience takes away as it relates to community. There were so many just strong points. And I think a huge one is that you maintain your individualism in community. That
Mhm.
is very important. Boundaries are important in communities. Just because you are in community, you are with like minded individuals or whatever your community is about, does not mean it is a free for all. You get to set and enforce boundaries. A good community has accountability. A good
Mhm.
community communicates across the board. A good community knows when you need, or they recognize when you effectively communicate that you need time,
Mhm.
right? Community is about time. It's about effort as well. You have to give just as much as you want to get, but
Yep.
you gotta put that out there. Marlon, where can the people who are interested in your services and maybe just want to just bother with you a little bit more about, hey, I got some questions on this. Where can they find you? How can they reach you?
So you can reach me. I have a page on psychologytoday.com. You go in there, you type in Marlon Boutin, Boutin, and I'll come up and you'll be able to find me there. But in the midst of my life transition, I guess drop a little gem.
Come on.
I am in the process of building my own business.
Yeah.
And it's actually called Nola Mind Gym. So I will be launching my website soon, and there as well, you can book me for podcasts. You can book me for engagements. I talk sometimes with universities about mental health, corporations about corporate wellness and mental health wellness. If you need a session, you can book me there. So that will be coming up soon. Hopefully I can release that like this weekend.
Y'all
So
heard it here
really, really
first
soon.
on Gift of Gab.
Yes, yes. So right now, Psychology Today, and soon you can find me Nola Mind Gym. That will be the name of my company coming to uh Instagram, Twitter, everything to you. On media accessible.
Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you. Making his life, again, taking some hardships and making lemonade out of it,
That's right.
Mm,
And if you
yeah.
don't like lemonade, make a lemon drop.
There you go. Yeah, definitely, definitely.
Oh, well, listen, we would love to have you back anytime, Marlon. I really appreciate you being here. I cannot express to the audience enough just how many gems you dropped here and just the importance of like you are as good as your community, right? Your contributions to the community are just as big as what anybody else makes. And y'all know what we always say at the end of the episodes. I love y'all. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Till next time.